may surprise you to learn that everything we're seeing now is part of the same plan that has been in place for years, especially since 2020, which was one of the most important years in the history of this whole thing. Hello, my name is Nick and welcome to the group. If this is your first time on the channel, I hope you decide to join by the end of March 2020. That month was very important because it showed us that the push for automation was picking up speed. And in fact, I think this is very clear from what the IMF told us in 2020. Our next guest is Christina Georgieva, and we need to look at the chances we have to get through this crisis by investing in a most sustainable and qualify for the future. It's interesting that this is from the IMF in June 2020. A lot of people didn't even look at it because of everything else going on. We'll take a look at this. On the other side, there will be more debt deficits and unemployment. And to go back to the beginning of our talk, there is a risk of more poverty and inequality. To get over the risks, we need to think about the chances we have ahead of us. One of those chances. To begin, it's clear that digital has come out on top in this situation. First, we can make sure that no country is left out of the digital revolution and that it grows as a chance for everyone around the world. Second, we can use our boost to invest in a low carbon future that will be able to handle climate change. Third, we can meet the needs for social protection, David. We live in a rich world, even with the crisis and the 3% growth. Our GDP is over $80 trillion, 0 cents. We need to make sure that everyone gets a fair share of the benefits of growth so that the other side is a better place. Many places talk about it. How can we not slow down, but move forward? We can pick whether things will change greatly or start over. What's even more interesting about this time is that we have a choice in January 2020. Before COVID and before anything else happened, our CEO, Brad Garlinghouse, talks about what makes XRP different from stablecoins. This is really important because in the end, every country will make its own CBDC stablecoins. It's possible that XRP will connect everything. To begin, you should know that stablecoins are very popular right now. Everyone is making coins that are backed by the dollar or something else so that traders can make deals quickly and easily without having to worry about price fluctuations. So why would you use XRP instead of one of these assets that are basically made to be instantly stable, like the safe coin USDC, as Coinbase and Circle have done? I like the idea for lowering risk, but you still have to go from the dollar to the base. So at some point, someone needs to fix the bridge. What Ripple's really saying is, let's make XRP the most efficient and liquid on both ends by selling effective connectors and an API that lets people join to both ends. This makes it easiest for hundreds of banks to use. So the winner of this game will be the person with the most cash on hand. As what I mean is that I think different people have different ideas, which is fine. This was very important to hear in 2020, but it's even more important now that stablecoins make up 1% of the M2 global amount of money. It looks like stablecoins are used every day, and every day more stablecoins are released than ever before. It's crazy that this happened in 2023. The IMF says that digital coins issued by central banks can be used instead of cash. Now is not the time to go back to the old way of doing things. To put it simply, stable coins are CBDCs. That's what I want you to understand, what stable coins are really becoming. And this is also from Chris Alina Jorga. We haven't reached land yet. There is a lot of room for new ideas, but it's hard to say what the use cases will be at that point, she said. The government should keep getting ready to use digital currencies issued by central banks and payment systems that work with them in the future. Point. Only 11 countries agreed to follow the CDCs from the Atlantic Council. I think it's a bit more than that now, but 90.8% of central banks are looking into CBDCs. Their investigation into them is still going on. All of this is brought up, though, because of what we just heard from the IMF and what we see here from Gold Telegraph. The IMF says that there is a big change happening in the world economy. There you have it. The world's economic system, which most countries have used for the past 80 years, is being reset, ushering in a new era, already do. And no new jobs have come up since late January when the U.S. put a lot of tariffs in place, starting with ones on Canada. China, Mexico, and key industries put tariffs on almost everything on April 2, The US tariff rate rose to levels not seen since the Great Depression, and major trade partners' reactions pushed the global rate up even more. Taxes and other issues are being talked about again. Well, let's be honest about what tariff talks, trade wars, and other big fights are really about. They're just a fast paced game that people use to get what they want, which we all know. The year 2020 was a good one to pay attention to this because it wasn't just the IMF calling for a big change. The World Economic Forum pushed for the Great Reset. Now the World Bank is doing the same. How can we speed up the digital transition? Well, when we start a big fight like a trade war, it speeds up the move toward digital currencies like petty coins and away from the US dollar. It also makes us think of what Scott Bissett said not long ago, that the IMF and the World Bank have long-term value, but mission creep has thrown them off track. We need to make some important changes to make sure that the Bretton Woods institutions work for the people who have a stake in them, not the other way around. He did make other posts because I played this video clip, another video. Let's talk about the second post instead. I'll play the movie again in case some of you missed it. I'd then like to play the extra clip from Scott Bisson. I'm excited to work with you all to get things back in order on the world stage, but before we can do that, we need to rebuild the IMF and the World Bank and get them back on track with the goals they were created to serve. The IMF and the World Bank will always be useful, but task creep has thrown these groups off track. We need to make some important changes to make sure that the Bretton Woods institutions work for the people who have pretty much made an announcement. If the IMF and the World Bank do the right thing, there will be a big change everywhere. This is all connected to the restart, where everything is starting over. It's not just the IMF and the World Bank that need to make changes. We also need to make the IMF again. The IMF used to focus on its main goal of promoting global monetary unity and stable finances, but now it spends so much time and money on issues like climate change, gender, and social issues. These issues are not the IMF's job. The IMF needs to be turned back into the IMF first countries to work and make sure that trade between countries grows. Back policies that help the economy grow steadily and stay away from policies that hurt it, like competitive exchange rate decline. These are very important jobs that help the US and world economies, but the IMF has been distracted from its main goals. The IMF original goal was to support stable global finances and a single global currency. Now it spends too much time and money on issues such as gender, climate change, and social issues. That's not the IMF's job. In fact, focusing on these issues is making it take longer for the IMF to work on more important physical issues.